Today, I did have an illustration as to what I was going to do, but I figured I'd go into a little bit of history. This is going to go back into what I was talking about. Many of you guys know my topic and my title. My title is called Stepping Out of the Bunker. My topic is about confinement. In 1955, going back to U.S. history, 1955, Theodore Roosevelt, this is the cool part, Theodore Roosevelt had a bunker built 4,050 feet underneath of the White House. 4,000 feet. Talk about isolation. This was during the midst of World War II, and because of that, they had to figure out a way to communicate. They had to figure out a way to have supplies. They had to figure out a way to have running water and how to communicate with other people outside of the U.S. So what I'm going to get to right now, if you look at the bunker itself, it's created with multiple rooms. It's got a communications room. It's got your housing, so your bunk beds. You got your kitchen. You got places for your, if you're in the military, your MREs. But they probably have nicer things there. If you look at it, I mean, typically a bunker can last you a couple days to even a couple years. But why I'm talking about a bunker and talking about the rooms is that in some of our lives, we have bunkers that are deeper than we thought we had, that deeper than we ever imagined could be. Some of us have a bunker that a place in our lives where only a few friends know about, or only our parents know, and things are hidden. They're things that are unseen. And what's really in this bunker, we have multiple rooms. So we have things like the lies that we've told, the deception that we've held, let's go with sexual immorality, pornography, all of that. We have certain places in our lives that we have confined into certain areas where people could not see them. We're going to go into a couple scriptures. You don't have to pull your Bibles out. Matthew 14:29 in the Passion says, "Come and join me," Jesus replied. So Peter stepped out onto the water and began to walk towards Jesus. In 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12, it says, "So then, with this amazing hope living in us, we step out in freedom and boldness to speak the truth." Now, I'm changing up my topics a little bit in here. We're going to go ahead and look at Adam and Eve. When Adam and Eve decided to partake of the fruit, they were full of shame, regret, hurt. They felt a disconnect. They felt something was not right and is not right. So what they did was, they hid. And the Lord said, in there, "Where are you?" And Adam stepped out and said, "We were afraid, so we hid." See, here's the thing. We are so caught up in these things that we have dealt with in our life, when we've dealt with these issues where we've had to hide ourselves, we've had to confine ourselves into our own places where other people could not access. Like for myself, a long time ago, actually, it was more like 3 years ago, I was in Bible college, and I confined myself to my work. I was hurting so bad because of the position I was in at the time. I worked 200 hours every 2 weeks. I worked overtime. I was working for this big media production company, and I was wore out. I was depressed. I didn't want to go to class. I confined myself to the place I knew best, which was my work. I distracted myself from things that could come out into the open, and the fact that not only was I dealing with these things, I didn't want to go to anybody. I didn't want to go to any counseling. I didn't want to do anything that could present itself as me being vulnerable. And a lot of us do not like to be vulnerable. A lot of us do not like to step. We have a phrase, stepping over the chicken line. Okay, some of us do not want to even step over that chicken line to be like, look, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what's going on in my life. This is the shame that I'm feeling. This is the regret I'm feeling. Here's the thing. God knows exactly where we are, even though we may not present it. God knew exactly where Adam and Eve was, but he still wanted to have those intimate moments. And it says, God says, where were you? Even though God knew exactly where Adam and Eve were, he still wanted to show them that there was an importance. He wanted to say, hey, it's okay. You can tell me. I'm here for you. I'm here to listen to you. You can be open with me. You can be honest with me. But they weren't. They deceived themselves by hiding. They deceived themselves by covering themselves. I mean, there's these little things that you have to look at and be like, Lord, what is the significance between this? There's a time when we get into a place where we're only confining ourselves. There's a lot of privileges with bunkers. You can bring people in, you can let people out, but at a time when it's fully sealed is when it matters most, because once it's sealed, you can't open it back up. Not only that, but there's no communication to the outside world. If you're the only people left, what do? Supplies are going to run out. But when you confine yourself, you truly lose the accessibility to see what is going on in the outside. Now, I'm going to go back to Matthew 14:29. This is my second part. It says, "Come and join me," Jesus replied. Jesus replied, so Peter stepped out into the water and he began to walk towards Jesus. Now, here's the thing. Consider your confinement the boat. It's rocking. You have distractions. You have storms. There are things in your life that are causing you to shift your focus away from Jesus in front of you. Now, in the midst of the storm, because it was talking about how there was a front, and there was the fog, there was the clouds, and it talks about when the disciples and Peter were on the boat and they saw this figure, they said, "Jesus, is that you?" And the Lord said, "It is I." There was a little bit of faith there, but at the same time, they saw this man walking on water. They saw a miracle that they were meant to take in front of them, but yet they had no way of reaching it. They had no way of going from point A to point B except with walking on the water. Now, here's the thing. A lot of us in our life, when it says Peter stepped out, he must have gone through an internal battle. What am I going to fall through the water? Am I going to sink? Is there something underneath of this boat? Am I going to get killed? What exactly is going on? He must have had this eternal battle, because for a moment there could have been a little bit of hesitation. He just didn't step out of the water. Because at the end, when Peter started walking on the water, Jesus said, "Why ye of so little faith?" Now, if you compare it to your lives, some of us are just sticking our foot outside of our own comfort zone just to test the waters to see if our foot's going to go in, or if it's going to rest nicely on there. We don't know exactly what's going to go on until we actually work for it. There's a lot of times where we don't want to work for something that is beneficial. There's a lot of things in our life that God is saying, "Hey, I positioned it for you. Why aren't you taking a step? Come out of my boat. Come out of your boat and trust me and put faith into what I have for you." Now, here's the thing. Like I said, some of us are trying to tiptoe, but what happens is the boat's rocking. There's things that are distracting Peter. There's things here. There's things there. And think about it in our lives. When we get ready to step out of our boat, that's when the things start to come into realization. We start to have all these thoughts about, what did I do in third grade? Or what did that person think about me? What's going to happen? You start to put your toe in there. Like, what exactly is going to happen to me? These thoughts are coming back. These things that I've done, they're what exactly is going to happen to me? But Peter stepped out of the boat, 1 foot at a time. When there were things that were grabbing his attention, he's like, "I have my focus on Jesus." He would take another stop. "I have my focus on Jesus." When there's things below him, when there's things that could have been distracting him, and he could have been like, oh, there's something going on. No. I'm focusing on the promises that Jesus has for me. I'm focusing on the promises that God has called me into, the calling that God has called into me. I see it in front of me. I'm going to take another step. Now, here's the thing. A lot of us get halfway there and we start to turn back and we're like, I don't know. If I take this another step, am I going to go in or am I going to keep walking? A lot of us are afraid to even take that first step. But I'm urging you, I'm telling you, and I'm asking you, please, take that first step. Because once you start to step out, now this is why I'm going back into this bunker part. When you're confined in a bunker for so long, there's that dust, there's the debris, there's cobwebs, everything is barricaded. But here's the thing, sooner or later you're going to have to get air. Sooner or later you're going to have to walk through those doors that have been what would be considered permanently sealed. And you have to see what God has put out front of you, outside of what the situation that you're at. Sometimes you have to envision it like a light in a tunnel. Sometimes when you feel like there's darkness and you look the other way and there's a light, you go towards the light. I'm asking you right now to just put yourself in a position of being like, if there nothing else mattered and I saw the vision and the calling that God had on my life, am I going to pursue it? And am I going to step out of the position that I'm in now to get into the other position? Am I really going to see what God has for me? Or am I going to wait at a distance? So I urge you, take that next step. Take that next step. Take that next step. Because sooner or later you're going to see the vision. Now here's the thing, Peter had to walk back to the boat. Right? At the end, he either had to he either walked with Jesus the rest of the way, or he had to get back on the boat. But here's the thing, after that initiation of walking out and meeting Jesus, Peter's life turned around. If you look at all the letters to the churches that Peter's written, you look at the things that Peter has gone through, you can see that there was a turnaround from the faith that he had then to the faith that he has now. You look at the miracles that he witnessed, you look at the miracles that he saw, but then you look at the miracles and the things that has happened in his life where he was a part of it. Without Peter's faith, without the things that happened with him, without him taking that first step, we probably wouldn't have been here. But we need to take that next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some of my Austria and Switzerland folks come up here. You guys are going to be my ministry team. So that means Bree and Mary, I think my only two. Now, the reason why I'm calling them up is because we're all going together, we're all traveling together, and we all need to be a part of a ministry team. We all need to step out in faith. All right? Even in a message like this, even in a time where we're just preaching, I want to open this up to you. We have about 4.5 minutes left. I want you to just think to yourself, what is something that I'm hiding? What is something that I've confined myself into that I just need to get out there? I just want you to take 45 seconds to a minute and just be like, Lord, take these things, surrender these things to God, and be like, Lord, I'm opening myself fully to you, and I'm wanting to step out of this boat. I'm wanting to pursue you. I'm wanting to pursue the calling, the thing that you have on my life. I want it.